independent ball, minor leagues. They're trying to make it, and they're this close to quitting. What do you say to them?
It's definitely a sport that's going to test your mentality. That's for sure. It makes people just want to give up and quit, and it's not easy. That's the truth. And the best thing you can do, if you can look at yourself in the mirror every night and know that you gave 100% that day, that's the only thing that you can really do. Besides, I mean, there's circumstances that are out of your control, and you can't focus on those. You can only focus on what you can control, what's in your control, and go out there and just give 100% and do the best you can, and just play your heart out. Because the last thing you want to do is look, when you're 50, you go, oh, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. Just go out there and just do the best you can, and if you can do that, you've succeeded.
Absolutely. Well, it's so interesting when I got Eric Yardley on. He's with the Diamondbacks now, and he's throwing 87, I think, and went through Pecos League, which was one of the toughest to get into the big leagues from there. How did you start playing baseball? It's always fun to go back to the beginning. So how did that happen for Kyle Farnsworth?
Probably my parents threw me out there probably when I was old enough to walk or run, which I heard was pretty young. But just whenever the age was for t-ball, I'm guessing 4 or 5. Just whenever kids start playing, that's when I started. And I played all sports. I played baseball, football, basketball. I think I played a couple of years of soccer, but I think I don't know why I didn't. The reason why I didn't play soccer that much is because it was the same time as baseball. But I played football, baseball, basketball, all the way through high school and stuff like that. And I enjoyed it. Did I ever think I would have the career and opportunities I had? In my life, no. But I love playing the game, and that's just I had no idea how far I was going to be able to go, or how far I was going to be able to. I was going to take it. I was just going to go as far as I could until they made me rip the uniform off. So, I played with my emotions with them on my sleeves, and I played the hard as I could. And I looked at myself, and I knew I gave everything I had, and that's the only thing I could do.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you played for a lot of great teams, but before you got to the big leagues, what did that road look like for you to break into the major leagues?
It's back in then. I know it's probably a lot different now, but I remember my first year was in 1995 down in Fort Myers. That wasn't that bad. They put us up in a hotel, and it was in where all the first or the draft picks went for the first end of the year. And then 96, I was in Rockford. A lot of bus trips in that league, so that definitely tests your mentality. And then when you're living with 4 or 5 guys in an apartment, you're making $250 every 2 weeks.
Oh man.
There's things that just that, like I said, that it just shows the grind that you have to go through, and you're eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's your dinner, your breakfast. So I mean, it's tough, and then every level gets a little bit better, but you know just because you're drafted in the first round, it gives you more opportunities, but when you're drafted lower, you have to work hard. You have to bust your butt every day, day in and day out. You can't take days off, because those higher round draft picks, they get more opportunities than you do. So that's what my mentality was too. I was like, I'm not going to be outworked. You might be better than me, but I won't be outworked. You won't beat me in that, and I'll take my chances that way.
Absolutely. Wow. You're right. I mean, in some ways it is different, but they still have to slog through, to
Yep.
get to the big leagues, the cheap meals. I've heard similar stories from other players even today. So some of that is still happening.
So there.
So, I watched WGN when the Cubs used to be on WGN, and I always imagine what it would be like to run out from, the bullpen mound to the mound. What was it like just being at Wrigley Field as a player? You've made it. Was that moment where you're like, I've made it, I'm here to stay?
I still don't know if that's ever set in yet, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, just being in there, I don't know, any field, but Wrigley, for all the history and just the Ivy, the day games, the great fans, it was just to be able to run from that mound in the right field corner or left field corner out to the mound and hearing them cheer your name most of the time. Sometimes there were boos, but it's all good. But it's just a dream come true because you do kind of finally just like, you know what, I'm here. I'm that 1%. I've made it. Now the tough part is to stay. So, but I was able to do both of those, and it was just the atmosphere is insane. Just being grateful and just blessed to be able to show support. My family and stuff like that. So it was just awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of coaches and players watching this and some scouts, and I think it'd be really cool for people to hear what was the toughest part of your career and how did you overcome? How did you get back to where you wanted to be?
The toughest part of my career, I'm not sure. There was always, I think probably earlier on. No, I came up in '99 as a start. I was always a starter, so I came up in '99 as a starter. I think maybe the couple of times getting sent back down in the minor leagues the first couple of years, that was kind of tough because I'm like, oh my gosh, I got here, I didn't do well. Now I'm going back down. So now what do I do? And it's kind of like a shell shock in a way because now that's kind of an eye opener. Like, okay, now I got what I thought I was doing well, but numbers don't lie, and you just got to go back down there and work, and you just hope you get another call and to get back up there. But I mean, just times like those, it's sometimes they go through your mind. You're like, oh, am I going to be back up there? So, but that goes back to the point of never giving up. Believe in yourself. What's done is done, and you just have to focus on the future.
Were you ever in a game situation, Kyle, and you're like, oh, just walked the second hit in a row, and you did something on the mound that got you back into another account? Were there little things you would do to kind of get back in the game?
I always try to slow the game down. Just take a deep step back behind the mound, take a deep breath. I do have a story when I was in Double A. I remember. I think we were playing at home in West Tennessee. First inning, I think I walked the bases loaded.
Oh.
So I was like, pitching coach Alan Dunn comes out. He's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I'm good." And I think for some reason, I don't know why this song popped, and I started singing the song or humming the song, "Killing Them Softly" in my mind. And also, I strike out the next three guys. So it's like, what the heck just happened? But in my catcher, I forget who was catching at the time, but he's like, "Dude, what was that?" I was like, "I don't know. I was just whistling."
Hey, a
So
song got you back in, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's just, I mean, just weird things. Who knows what we'll be able to flip that switch? And sometimes you just have to just the game's hard enough it is. Don't put added pressure on because it's already there. And I think that's probably what happened. That I really didn't realize was happening, but I just finally just relaxed, and it just made my whole body relax. And I was like, oh, okay, it can't get any worse. Here we go. And just being that relaxed state helped me out in a way.
Yeah. I didn't plan to ask this, but this is how these interviews go for me. But the new rules, I'm 33, I'm not an old man, but some of them I'm not the craziest about, like, because Nomar Garciaparra, you were obviously teammates with him, would do stuff with his gloves to kind of get back in the rhythm. Pitchers would do certain things. With this pitch clock and some of the changes, like, is that going to affect these players to be able to have the time to mentally get back into account, or what do you think about that?
I mean, I see what they're trying to do. I mean, granted, I love Nomar. He took forever to get in the box. Steve Traxel, he was a teammate of mine. I roomed with him as soon as I came up to Chicago. He took forever. So it's nothing against those guys,
Right.
but I can see where they were both almost like human rain delays in a way. Just to be able to speed that up, okay, but don't make it to the point where it's almost like speed pitch baseball. You throw it to the catcher, they throw it back, then you throw it again. You got just like boom, 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 boom. That's not what the game is about, and I think that's what they have to realize. And just because if they think they're going to lose fans, I think they're going to lose more, or they want to gain younger fans. I think they're going to lose more older fans who are bringing the younger kids, because that's who's paying the ticket prices, are the adults who don't want to see that. I mean, hopefully it does well. I know there were some issues in spring training so far, but I've heard the games are down like 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so. But I find it hard to accept it just because it is almost, it just speeds the game up a little bit too much.
I was talking to my friend Brad Lindsay. We've been watching the Cubs and Braves. That's kind of like our rivalry, Braves and Cubs. You pitch for both of them, obviously.
Yep.
And he said, Eric, I love the shift change because you're going to see more athleticism. And, you know, what should be a base hit's going to be a base hit. But some of this other stuff seems a little, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see this year, right? How it all plays.
Yep.
Let me ask you this. Who was a hitter you hated having to face? Like when he get in the box, you're like, oh, not again. Who was that?
There's a few, but Miguel Cabrera for sure.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, he for a guy who has so much power to be able to hit the ball from foul pole to foul pole, and he's just once in a lifetime talent. Just great human being, great teammate, and just unbelievable. So, yeah, there's a couple of guys I remember. Pujols got me a few times. He was a pain in the butt. It seemed like a lot of like smaller hitters, like slap hitters. I don't like calling them slap hitters, but more contact hitters. They gave me a lot of trouble just because I'd be throwing a good pitch and they'll foul it off, foul it off, and that gets more frustrating than anything than like a power hitter where you know what they're trying to do and they're just trying to smash. So all right, here we go. I know what you're trying to do. If you get me, you get me. If you don't, you don't. But yeah, it was always there's guys you knew who owned you, and there's the guys you knew that you owned. So it went both ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, baseball is an interesting way. You can have it all perfect on paper, but when you're on the field, right, everything can change at that moment. I mean, the Marlins broke my heart in 2003, like I'm sure yours, having been on the team. But you see this, like you said, this talent that just nobody saw coming in some ways with the Marlins that year, and of course Miggy, all he's done with Detroit. All right, so let's go kind of into an in-game moment. Is there any strikeout you really remember that you were like, I'm going to remember that for the rest of my life? Or what would be like one of the best moments for you on the field?
One that I really remember, it was at Wrigley. I don't remember what year it was, but I know we were facing the Astros. And I think I know I faced Bagwell, Alou, and I can't remember who was the other third person, but I struck them, all three of them out.
Was it Biggio or was it I think the bees, the killer bees, Berkman?
I can't remember, to be honest. I'm trying to remember, but it was kind of in a big moment. It was a close game, but I just remember, I know I was throwing hard. And I know what they were trying to do, and they were trying to smash me. So it was just a fun, hard-nosed, good old country fastball. Here it is. They knew what I was doing, and I didn't care. And I blew them all away, and that was real exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there any other pitchers with the Cubs or any other teams that you play with that really had an impact in helping you get better as a pitcher?
Rod Beck, rest his soul, was one. Terry Mulholland for sure, and Steve Traxel said he let me stay with him when I first came up in '99. But those three guys for sure really helped me and kind of guided me the best way that they could to for my success as well.
Yeah, if you could go back in time, which is always fun to think about, like a time machine. If you could go back to when you started, is there anything you would do differently as a pitcher, or even maybe a mindset difference you would have had, or are you happy exactly the way it went and you wouldn't change a thing?
Probably not go out as much, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, but
living your best life.
Yeah, I mean, I was 23, and would I do some stupid stuff? Yes, but I'm not making excuses. But if there was probably anything that I would probably go back and change, is probably not to be as crazy as I was. But as far as baseball wise, maybe talk to the older guys more and try to pick their brain more. I was always a real quiet kid, never asked a lot of questions. If someone talked to me, I'd listen to them, but I had a hard time like going up to up to anybody, and to pick their brain, learn more, and just like I would help. The older I got, I realized, okay, now my job is to help the younger guys. I'll go talk to them. So baseball wise, if there's anything I wish I would have talked more to the older guys more, just to help myself, I believe.
Sure. Well, I want to talk about what you're doing now, which I think is really cool. I mean, you've been picked up on news articles, and I love watching your Instagram because you really have metamorphosized again. And I think you'd agree with me on this. When people start growing in some way, they start dying.
Correct.
People retire and there's no purpose, right? So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with bodybuilding and what your vision is.
Um, I was probably got first introduced into lifting probably in my first year of junior college. Maybe I lifted a little bit at home, but back in those days, back in the 80s and early 90s, lifting wasn't really that prevalent, and not many people did it. So probably, I started working out my first year of junior college, probably because we had to, but I enjoyed it, and then just started doing more and more, and I noticed that I started getting stronger. My velocity started going up. I felt better. I noticed that you know guys were getting hurt. I wasn't. Just because I was doing my arm care, just doing all these things that I believe that would help me in the long run in my career. So I've always loved lifting. Is a kind of another way to relieve stress and just to help myself. And I've always been infatuated in a way of how the body is.
Yeah.
How always looked at like the muscle, like they had the skeleton picture, then like in science, and they got the muscle picture. And I always thought it was just cool. I was like, wow, that's what the muscles look like underneath the skin. Just to see them, and just to be able to turn your body into almost that poster, just to me was cool. And just seeing superheroes, as a kid, they were always jacked, He-Man
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So, I'm sure every kid always thought about trying to be like that, and it's just fun, and it's keeps me going, and I enjoy doing it, and I would like to try to do, maybe another show, but we'll see what happens in the future. Right now, kind of on the IL right now with my busted left shoulder, but
Oh, no.
so, but this part of it, and this, yeah, no, I enjoy it. I know it's something I've always loved and never stopped doing.
There are many underdogs out there like me that root for you. We root for you, the Cubs. We root for you on different teams. How can they kind of get behind you now? What's the easiest way for people to follow you and support you?
I mean, if they're interested in my boring life, they can go on Instagram at the Kyle
Not
Farnsworth.
boring.
And then on Twitter, I'm 24_7. I think it's Farnsworth. So they can follow what I do. Post. I don't post too much crazy stuff. So just dogs, my family, the wife, working out, and this stuff like that, and some events I do here and there. So I just try to keep my fans involved with what I do, and just stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, just to kind of dig a little deeper, when you talk about the working out that helped you as a pitcher, for some young pitchers, because I get messages from high school and college age pitchers, what would you recommend they really focus on to really max out, their performance?
As far as pitchers, definitely your lower half. Your power comes from your lower half, and learning how to use your legs and getting that good leg drive, and definitely keeping your shoulder strong and healthy by doing tubing exercises. I mean, there's so much stuff you can do these days just to be able to, keep your rotator and labrum and all that stuff strong, subscap, all those little shoulder muscles that involve in throwing. So, shoulder work is huge, core and legs. And one thing I think people forget is, I always used to long toss, and that really helped me. And I used to throw a football a lot too, so that helps with arm strength. So there's all kinds of things here and there, but just, and everybody also just has to find out what really works for their body, because everybody's different. Some things don't work for some guys, and some things work for others. So that's the process of elimination, trying to figure out what exercises you enjoy, the person enjoys, and actually work well for them as well.
Absolutely. I have a lazy left leg that needs to stop being lazy when I'm out there trying to get into the adult league. So I'm working on it, Kyle. I really am. And I'll be picking your brain after this. Or I have another fun question for you. The guy in the back of this jersey, Sammy Sosa, was a big part of why I got into baseball coming over from Ireland, my family, and just loved his energy. What was it like playing with Sammy?
No, I loved him. He kind of took me underneath his wing for some reason. Why, I don't know. But
Whoa. Yeah.
I loved him to death. And I know some people didn't care for him. But you know, he, no matter what you say about him, he came to the field every day, ready to play, and he balled out. So for me as a player, that's all you can ask for another teammate, is to go out there and give 100% and do the best they can. And that's to me, that's what he did, and he helped me as well, so that he gets two good check marks for me.
Absolutely. Okay, so final fun question, then we'll get to the big question here. So when it comes down to people you play with, not so much in a mentor way, but who is the most fun player you ever played with? Like, was hilarious, was
Oh
something you
God.
enjoyed being around?
Oh goodness.
Who was it?
I don't. You put me on the spot there. I don't know if I can say fun wise. um, let's see here. I know when we were with the Cubs, like, we would go out. Nothing bad. I mean, we would go out in like groups. I mean, like team wise, almost like 10, 15 guys together. And I think that was in that playoff run where, I mean, we were so gelled. And I think that's a huge reason why, because we did things as a team off the field together as opposed to on the field. So, I mean, we had guys. Mark Grudzelanek was there. Who else we have? I mean, we had Sammy. I mean, we had so many different guys that meshed so well together,
Yeah.
and that just I think that really helped us be able to do that things off the field, just to get away from baseball and enjoy each other's company and have fun.
That's so cool. Well, it's really fun to hear those behind the scenes, because we didn't see that, obviously. You
Yeah.
guys got to have that experience, and I know you wouldn't trade anything for that for the world. I know you said you wouldn't go out as much, but in some ways, part of the story. All right, so final
Exactly.
question. This is a big one for me. So you see what I'm trying to do. I want to build underdogs of all over the world to come together and stop being lone rangers and say, you know what, we can overcome. We can make things happen, no matter what your age is. I was 98% deaf, eczema, all these things. They said I'd never play sports, Kyle. They said I'd never speak in front of my class. I've given hundreds of speeches, done so many interviews. What do you say to this movement of underdogs that want to break out, want to excel, want to overcome the odds? What do you say to them?
I'll say, don't be afraid to do it. I mean, don't be afraid to be different. And just because if you're an underdog doesn't mean you can't succeed and do well. Use that as fuel and fire to prove people wrong. I know I did that to people who doubted me and thought I wouldn't be anything. And they're like, okay, guess what? You'll find out soon enough. I'm going to prove you wrong. So for the underdog movement, that's pretty much, that's a huge mindset of believing in yourself. I believe is one of the main things. No matter what anybody else believes or thinks, if you believe in yourself and what you are capable of doing and knowing what you can do, and just having that fire and drive, you can pretty much do anything you want to.
Amen. Wow. Well, I'm gonna cut that part out. That was awesome, Kyle. And I appreciate that. And that is so true, that the self-belief, self-confidence has to be there. Because if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it, right? So
Exactly.
what it
Starts
comes
with you. Yep.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle Farnsworth, I had goosebumps when I saw your face on the screen saying, I've watched this guy so many innings. I'm just so thankful you came on. Thank you for being on with me.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anytime.
Absolutely. Well, listen, follow him on Instagram, like you said. Check out the shows. We'll pray for the shoulder. You'll be back in action before you know it. And thanks again. And underdogs, share this video, comment below. Let's get this great word out to as many people as we can. Thanks, everyone.